Artemis stabbing in St. Jamestown early this morning sent a man to hospital.
Police are searching for suspects while area residents say they're concerned about violence in their neighborhood. CB24 Steve Ryan's been following the investigation and joins us live with more. Steve.
Yeah, police tell us that they arrived at this location, 275 St. James Avenue, at 5 o'clock this morning. A man had suffered multiple stab wounds. He was located in the lobby of this apartment complex. He's been transported to the hospital where he is in critical condition. Police have been here throughout the morning processing this crime scene in the lobby. They have moved beyond that, Nathan and Michelle, so it does appear that they may have found a secondary crime scene, but for the most part, the attention was focused on the lobby itself. Now, police have said that this was a targeted, isolated incident, and there is no threat to public safety. We did get reaction earlier on as well, and here is some of what we were told.
It's saddening, but it's not surprising. We've been experiencing a series of violent incidences in our neighborhood in recent months, stabbings and shootings on our Toronto housing properties. Our St. Jamestown Residents Council is our local resident association with a focus on Toronto housing residents. I live in one of the Toronto housing buildings right next door. We just had a shooting 4 days ago at this intersection, stabbing again this morning, and that's one of many which have happened in recent months.
So that shooting still being investigated by Toronto police. That occurrence, the police were looking for a crime scene at that occurrence as well. A few days back, police were flagged down by a man who had been shot. He was rushed to hospital where he was in a life-threatening condition. The police were looking for a crime scene. That location, that too, is believed to have happened here in St. Jamestown. And now we have the stabbing this morning. Police have not located a crime scene yet, as far as I'm told, and there is no description or suspect information. But again, it is important for the community to know that police have said that this is a targeted event and that there is no threat to public safety.
All right, good to hear. CB24 Steve Ryan, thank you. Well, a man has life-threatening injuries after being struck by a vehicle in North York last night. It happened just before 8:30 near Pine Brook and Bartley Drive, south of Victoria Park in Eglinton. The man was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The driver involved remained at the scene. The circumstances leading up to the man being struck are still under investigation.
The Ford government is promising his government will find out how more than 150 inmates were improperly released from Ontario's jails over the past few years.
I'm going to make sure that we understand exactly what happened. You have to remember something, that we have many people moving in and out of our correctional system every day. There's a judicial system, there's an administrative system. I'm not satisfied that one person is released improperly, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
Documents obtained by Global News through Freedom of Information requests show the province mistakenly released 157 inmates between 2021 and 2025. The documents indicate the majority of errors were made at the jails and in court. Some were administrative, while others were human error. The Premier has described the situation as unacceptable.
Meanwhile, Toronto police have released images of a suspect in an alleged sexual assault this week at Union Station. Just before 3 Tuesday afternoon, a male suspect is accused of sexually assaulting a woman on the concourse level of the transit hub. He then ran off. Investigators say they're looking for 40-year-old Neil George Cullum. He's wanted on 1 count each of sexual assault and failed to comply with release orders, and 4 counts of failed to comply with probation. Anybody with information is asked to contact 52 Division. And still to come, Trump says Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire. We'll have more on the conflict in the Middle East a little later in the newscast. But first, a number of items are up for discussion as the TTC board meets today.
They include a response to mechanical issues that disrupted service twice last week, as well as FIFA transit planning. CTV's Janice Golding has been following this meeting, and she joins us live with more. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Well, subway shutdowns were at the top of the agenda at today's TTC board meeting after multiple service shutdowns earlier this month. Councillor Josh Matlow moved a motion today that was approved unanimously, calling for urgent action following repeated hydraulic fluid leaks and mechanical service disruption. Just last week, riders faced 2 separate hydraulic fluid leak issues that resulted in the suspension of service along a portion of Line 2. Essentially, a work car during overnight maintenance on Line 2 experienced a fuel leak. and that disrupted the start of subway service. The work car fleet was suspended effective immediately as the TTC CEO vowed to review the root causes and conduct inspections. Matlow's proposal asked that staff report back with recommendations on how the problems can be addressed and that the TTC come up with a concrete plan as part of the 2027 budget process.
Look, mistakes happen, and we all get that. That's how we learn not to make them again. The TTC did a deep dive on a series of hydraulic oil spills that affected service in 2024. The report made several recommendations, and all recommendations were implemented, and therefore these failures should not be happening. Yet they did. And let me be clear, that is totally unacceptable.
We're working with the manufacturer, working with a third party, looking at our processes of what we do, how we do it going forward. I took the unprecedented decision to take all work cars out of play until we get the resolution to what occurred, why it occurred, and more importantly, how we're going to take it forward.
I want to make sure that there is a plan that is understandable, that's comprehensible, that's transparent to the public, and there needs to be a budget attached to make those fixes. But no, clearly the plan that is in place right now is not sufficient, or we wouldn't be having this conversation today about so many leaks that have been disrupting people's lives.
The motion notes that infrastructure problems are the second largest cause of service disruptions at the TTC and need to be addressed. Reporting live, Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Well, when the Eglinton LRT opened, a number of bus routes were also adjusted across the city.
However, riders are expressing their frustration with the changes made to the Jane bus. CTV's Beth McDonnell explains.
Louisa Giacometti rides the Jane bus regularly to her art classes, to volunteer, and wherever else she needs to go. But since the Eglinton LRT came into service in February, buses on Jane have changed.
It's not responding to need, and especially in this area, there's a great need for this.
Instead of having a Jane bus seamlessly run between Jane Station and Pioneer Village Station, stopping at every stop, there is now one bus from Jane Station to Mount Dennis Station, where riders can take other buses or get on the LRT, and another bus from Mount Dennis to Pioneer Village. Mount Dennis is nearly a kilometre east of Jane, so riders like Giacometti wanting to go straight on Jane now get off at Eglinton and wait for a separate bus north or south.
Route 27 Jane South.
There is an express bus along Jane still traveling directly between stations, but it doesn't stop at all the stops Giacometti relies on. She says the trip can take 30 minutes longer or involve extra walking to catch the express bus.
I mean, it takes much longer to get anywhere, or you have to strategically plan out your trip, whereas before that was not the case.
In a statement, TTC Media Relations says, with the opening of Line 5 Eglinton, many bus routes across the city are being adjusted to better connect customers with the new service. These changes aim to improve customer mobility by providing better access to new rapid transit, while leveraging new operational opportunities to ensure TTC resources are efficiently deployed. Adding it apologizes to customers experiencing disruptions.
It's a bit complicated, like your time to travel is a bit longer.
Yeah, I used to take the Jane station all the way up, but it's a very useful station, the Mount Dennis station.
You just have to leave home a little bit earlier.
It's very frustrating. It's not practical.
Giacometti points out Jane is one of the busiest routes and not everyone has more time to wait or the ability to walk extra distances. The TTC says it found walking distance would be offset by the speed of the express bus. She says she emailed the TTC trying to explain the need for the old service to return. The TTC is bringing back bus service at night that will stop at Mount Dennis Station and service all stops, but not during the day.
I asked about how long it'll take for this monitoring that they're telling me about. They told me a year. We all understand that change takes place. You have to give it time. But within 2 weeks, it was quite obvious that this does not work well.
The TTC says it's looking to see if further changes are needed and is gathering feedback from a survey about the Eglinton LRT, including transfers to buses. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Tunneling has begun for the new Ontario line. 2 tunnel boring machines are digging twin tunnels from Exhibition Stadium toward the Don Yard near the Don Valley Parkway and Lakeshore. The province says this marks a major construction milestone.
There can't be a tougher dig than going underneath a city, going underneath foundations of buildings, going underneath other subway stations. The engineering that we do here is second to none. It's just fascinating.
For the first time in more than 60 years, we are tunneling a subway through the heart of this city. This is a historic moment for Toronto. When the Ontario line is complete, nearly 230,000 Torontonians will live within walking distance of rapid transit.
When people talk about nation building, a lot of times it sounds abstract, but it actually looks like today. It looks like transit lines actually being built. It looks like tunnels that are actually being dug. It looks like great men and women, the workers who are on site doing the real work in good paying jobs. It looks like real progress people can see with their own eyes.
Once finished, the 15.6-kilometre Ontario line will run from Exhibition Place to the Eglinton Crosstown LRT at Don Mills Road. There'll be 15 stations along the route.
Several communities in Ontario have declared states of emergency over flooding after a series of storms soaked a large part of the province. Many areas dealing with flooding from a combination of melting snow and all the heavy rainfall we've been getting. The municipality of French River, the township of Minden Hills, and several communities on Manitoulin Island are among the areas that are under a state of emergency today. And certainly more rain does not help the situation in all these communities across Ontario. But unfortunately, that's what's on tap here in Toronto. We're taking a live look at the skyline right now, and it definitely looks like another unsettled day. It is mild at the very least, but there is a special weather statement in effect, warning of all things, more heavy rainfall. Lindsay Morrison is here with the details. Lindsay.
Well, Michelle, at least we've said goodbye to the fog advisory that was in place. It was another brutal day of poor visibility out on the roads for the AM drive. And yes, we do have more rain pushing its way into the GTA. Some of the areas that do not need more rain are getting the heaviest of it right now. And we can expect some soggy conditions through the GTA through this afternoon. 10 to 20 millimeters of additional rainfall. In fact, this is the area under a rainfall warning, so up to about 40 millimeters of rain today is going to be possible there. It is mild. We're at 20 degrees right now, and it feels like 25. It's humid out there. Winds have picked up in strength. They're coming out of the southwest for today. Here is your day at a glance. 20. Our forecast daytime high, and we've already made it there. But yes, we're holding on to the risk of thunderstorms. Tomorrow will be a drier day, but we've got some interesting weather to talk about for the weekend. We'll take you through the forecast coming up. For now, Nathan, over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. The Ford government recently announced it will be loosening alcohol restrictions at provincial parks, making it legal for people to drink almost anywhere. CTV's Scott Hurst has been following this story and joins us live with more. So, Scott, this is another big change when it comes to alcohol and where you can consume it.
Nathan, this sure piqued a lot of interest when it was announced by the Ford government this week, particularly as Lindsay was describing. We look through all the fog and rain and look ahead to better weather still to come during the summer months. And we know that Ontario parks see 13 million visits every year, and that contributes, according to the provincial government, more than $1.2 billion to Ontario's tourism industry. So there is a financial incentive here, as we heard from the province, that these changes are intended to improve the overall park experience and better support local tourism and potentially attract more visitors and grow the economy. So the new rules include adults being able to drink alcohol, drink booze beyond their individual campsites, including picnic areas, beaches, and other day use areas. Now, there are different rules when you look around to different provinces. If those here in Ontario are thinking about planning trips to other parts of the country and plan a camping trip, the best advice advice is, of course, to check the local and provincial guidelines. It is regulated. Booze in provincial parks is regulated, and in many cases, it is restricted often to individual campsites. So, Nathan, it'll be interesting to watch over the next couple years as this change comes into effect in Ontario, whether other provinces might look at what is happening in Ontario to see if there are benefits, to see how it plays out, and if there are benefits that they might want to make some changes as well.
All right, we're going to find out. Also, according to recent numbers from Stats Canada, Canadians are buying less alcohol. Are attitudes changing?
Yeah, the proof is in the numbers regarding the changing attitudes toward booze, the changing attitude towards how much alcohol is bought and how much alcohol is consumed. Alcohol sales are down, according to Stats Canada, and the decline in alcohol earnings was the largest annual decrease in the 2024-2025 year since the agency began tracking in the early 2000s. There's a decline in sales and a decline in volume. On a volume basis, sales of alcohol declined for the fourth consecutive year. And so what experts are seeing is a shift in attitude, and it's not really one specific topic that they're honing in on. They say there's a number of factors likely at play here, including, first of all, the affordability crisis, cost of living forcing people to cut back on drinking habits. Health and wellness attitudes are shifting. Lifestyle changes. Experts say they're seeing a shift, particularly in a younger generation, saying it appears to be quite a cultural shift that's not limited to Canada. Also, we're seeing quite a rise in the non-alcoholic options. So there are many other options for consumers out there, not just alcoholic products. So you kind of put all of that together, and that is, put all that together. And that's kind of why we're seeing quite a change in alcohol behavior, Nathan.
All right, understood. CTV's Scott Hurst in the National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
The city of Mississauga and the owners of Ridgeway Plaza have reached a deal to prevent nuisance gatherings there as we head into the warmer months. The plaza has become a major food destination for Middle Eastern, South Asian, and global cuisines since it opened in 2022. But officials say gatherings there have interfered with road safety, traffic flow, emergency response, and bylaw enforcement. Last summer, the city got a court injunction aimed at stopping unsanctioned events. This new deal will see Ridgeway Plaza's owners install more security cameras and access gates and hire more security staff on evenings when large celebrations are expected. The city says it will also step up parking enforcement.
A Canadian grandfather has returned home after spending more than 2 months in ICE custody in the U.S.
That included time spent in a facility known as Alligator Alcatraz. CTV's Judy Trin has his story.
Douglas Dixon has been deported back to Canada. After being arrested by ICE in February, he was taken to Alligator Alcatraz.
I didn't think that the United States was going to treat people inhumanely. They do not care about the human condition in those detention centers.
Dixon moved to South Florida in 2005, where he raised his family and got a green card. During the COVID pandemic, the 61-year-old grandfather had to close down his smoothie cafe and fell behind in taxes. He owed the U.S. government $30,000 and pleaded no contest to tax evasion and started paying it back. But he still owed $12,000. He was arrested during a check-in at his probation office.
And just as I turned the corner, there they are. There was about 7 or 8 ICE guys, grabbed me right away, threw me up against the wall.
He says detainees were allowed to shower every 3 days and got 1 hour of yard time every 4 days. Donald Trump has said the facility would house violent criminals, but Dixon says that's not his experience.
They all have jobs. Most of them have families. The atmosphere in there is one of despair.
After 9 days at Alligator Alcatraz, Dixon was transferred to another detention center. Under American law, defrauding the government of more than $10,000 is an aggravated felony. After 65 days, Dixon was put on a plane and banned from the U.S. for life. He didn't get a chance to say goodbye to his family, but they sent this message.
He will have accomplished something that he's been terrified for all his life, was being on a plane with his anxiety.
And I'm just proud that he has continued to wake up every morning.
Do they have a copy of that I can keep forever?
Dixon is one of 32 Canadians who have been deported from the U.S. since October. He'll now return to Montreal and move in with his sister in a city he hasn't called home for 21 years.
CTV's Judy Trin reporting. Turning to the war in the Middle East, the U.S. military says it has turned back 10 ships since launching its blockade of Iranian ports.
Speaking earlier today, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth stated America's in control of the strait while also taking aim at Iranian claims and capabilities.
You like to say publicly, Iran, that you control the Strait of Hormuz, but you don't have a navy or real domain awareness. You can't control anything. To be clear, threatening to shoot missiles and drones at ships, commercial ships that are lawfully transiting international waters, that is not control. That's piracy. That's terrorism. The United States Navy controls the traffic going in and out of the strait because we have real assets.
Iran issued a new threat to block shipping from the Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, and the Red Sea if the U.S. blockade continues. Currently, negotiations between the U.S. and Iran are at a standstill, with Iran's foreign ministry saying no specific dates have been set for a new round of peace talks. However, Pakistan is still trying to bring the two sides together. The current ceasefire took effect April 8th after 40 days of fighting. Peace talks were held in Pakistan this weekend, but no agreement was reached. Meanwhile, Pakistan's army chief is meeting with Iranian officials in Tehran today to push for further peace talks with the U.S.
Donald Trump says Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire following a conversation with the leaders of both nations. The U.S. president says it will begin at 5 p.m. Eastern, but he did not specify what day. Trump added he will be inviting Israel's prime minister and Lebanon's president to the White House for the first meaningful talks. He is also directing his vice president, secretary of state, and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to work with Lebanon and Israel to achieve lasting peace. Meanwhile, Israeli attacks are continuing on southern Lebanon amid an ongoing battle with the Hezbollah militant group. Hezbollah, which is not involved in the peace talks, has called on Lebanese officials to reject any dialogue with Israel. Israeli officials say their campaign against the militant group will continue despite negotiations with Lebanon's government.
Russia unleashed its deadliest attack of the year on Ukraine overnight, killing at least 16 people in Kyiv and other cities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia launched a wave of nearly 700 drones, as well as 19 ballistic and other cruise missiles. Russia claims it was attacked as well, with 2 children being killed by a Ukrainian drone strike. The attacks come after a brief ceasefire over Orthodox Easter weekend, although both sides have accused each other of violations of the ceasefire. Well, it's a way to make money, but is it moral? New online platforms are allowing users to wager on the outcomes of future events, including the economy and war.
CTV's John Venevelle-Rao has more on how that's raising major ethical concerns.
This polymarket trader has made $6 million! On social media, all sorts of mostly young men.
This is by far the easiest way to make money in 2026.
Posting videos about sites like Kalshi and Polymarket, which allow traders to bet on just about everything.
The end of this year,
from election results to who will win on The Bachelorette.
Will Karg Island get invaded? This random account on Polymarket sure seems to think so.
Even placing wagers on the war in Iran.
It's called a prediction market, where you can bet on real-world events.
The sites have exploded in popularity in the U.S., letting people make yes or no wagers.
Will Trump release the unredacted Epstein files?
And the results can outperform traditional polling. Some news organizations like CNN now routinely refer to the market odds.
It is now up to 77%, according to the folks at Kalshi, putting their money where their mouth is.
A trader made over $530,000 betting that the U.S. would attack Iran.
But concerns are being raised about some of what is being bet on, particularly the wars in Iran and Ukraine.
Whenever it comes to outcomes where lives are at stake, and war are such things, I think there are very profound ethical questions I would call these contracts immoral, but that's my personal take.
Questions are also being asked about whether some are profiting off of insider information. Hours before Venezuela's then president, Nicolas Maduro, was captured by U.S. forces, suspiciously timed bets about his removal were made on Polymarket. Well-timed bets were also placed just before Iran's former supreme leader was killed in a U.S.-Israeli strike.
When you compound the fact that we're literally taking bets on people's lives getting destroyed, and that people in the know are effectively making positive financial outcomes off of it, it's a troubling situation.
How to make big money.
In Canada, Polymarket and Kalshi are not legally available, and prediction markets here are limited to just a few subjects like the economy and environment, including the weather. Toronto-based Wealthsimple recently became the second Canadian firm to get approval to offer forecast trading.
They have a very limited authority to trade in a select group of outcomes that do not cover sports, that do not cover events of a political type, or such as elections or what's happening in the Middle East.
Meanwhile, Canadian regulators say they are watching prediction markets closely and could bring in tighter rules to deal with them. John Vanavalli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
6 days after their historic mission to the moon, the crew of Artemis 2 will be holding a news conference this afternoon. The 4 astronauts, Canadian Jeremy Hansen, Americans Reed Wiseman, Christina Koch, and Victor Glover, will discuss their flight around the moon at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Their journey was the first trip there by humans in more than 50 years. That news conference is set for 2:30 this afternoon. Lindsay.
Well, as we make our way through the rest of this afternoon, you should plan on it being another unsettled day, rounds of rain and possible thunderstorms as well. We should get into some clearing by the evening and by the overnight hours tonight. So here's a look at what you can expect later on today. A dry overnight without thunderstorms. It's been a while, hasn't it? Tomorrow is a drier day, hopefully with some sun, but there could be some lingering fog once again. And the weekend is looking not only unsettled, but quite cool, especially as we head into Sunday and then Monday of next week. But there will be a temperature rebound somewhat. We'll take you through the forecast after the break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
A classic play by Shakespeare, The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, has returned for a limited run at the Elgin Theatre. And to celebrate, one of the show's choreographers is hosting a sword fighting workshop. That's where we find CTV's Jessica Smith. Jess, the ancient art of sword fighting, I didn't know people still practiced.
They absolutely do. And I'll be honest with you, I've had a very quick lesson and I feel great. Before we get going, I want to do a bit of a demonstration. Can we do that? You guys got to watch. I learned this maybe 5 minutes ago. Okay, are we ready? So we go. How was that? Guillaume Cote, I want to ask you about, thank you, I can hear them clapping, you're welcome. I want to ask you about bringing the show back because it's been touring for a little while and you have a storied history here in the city of Toronto, but talk to me about bringing this back in a pretty unique way because we are doing it without words, but with movement.
Yeah, that's right. I was with the National Ballet of Canada for so many years, but then now I have my own company, Côté Danse, and we are producing this show called Hamlet at the Elgin Theatre, and it's very special for me to be back in the title role. We've been touring it all across Canada, the US, and Europe, and now we're back in Toronto for 3 performances on the 24th, 25th, 26th of April, and I'm really, truly, I'm loving the show. The reaction's been amazing from audiences, and you know, to be back on stage in the title role like Hamlet, it was a dream of mine since I was a child. So to do it side by side with Robert Lepage as the theater director is a real privilege. So I'm so excited to be back on stage in Toronto.
And there's no words in this, but there is sword fighting and there is dancing. Where was the challenge? Was it all a bit of a challenge to kind of take this whole story and tell it with physicality, with movement?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a 5-hour play when you're saying all the words. Don't worry, it's not 5 hours for us, it's an hour and 45. But you know what was really beautiful is that we made a proposition to show that Hamlet is actually successful, not only because of the famous words, but because of its structure. It's an interaction play, it's a situation play, has a lot of tension, and a lot of really beautiful, emotional, visceral moments that come through dance in a very beautiful, special way.
And in the sword fight, I got a bit of a lesson. Hamlet was the stronger one, but there was cheating involved. Tell me how that all works.
Oh yeah, it's very complicated. So, but you know, yes, Hamlet is the stronger fighter. He's the strong sword fighter with Laertes, but they ended up poisoning the tip of the sword, and then he ends up in one of the breaks. He ends up stabbing Hamlet without him noticing. So,
how rude.
Yes, how rude. I mean, come on. But we ended up portraying it in this really beautiful way where there's the dance comes through the sword fighting, and we actually even have very long pieces of fabric attached to the swords in order to make it look almost like martial arts.
I love it. Well, again, it's on the 24th to the 26th. We're going to wrap the segment by, let me just switch hands here, by fighting. We got it, guys. I promise I'm a really trained fighter. We're going to send it back to the studio. Are you ready? Here we go.
Got it down.
She makes it look great.
I don't normally promote violence, but I think they're just getting along.
It's the movement. It's the art.
They're both dancers, so I think they did very well there. And we are dancing in the rain today, yet again, singing in the rain, no matter what way you look at it. I mean, are we tired of this weather yet? I thought so. You too, Nathan?
Absolutely. We're looking for some sunshine, hopefully near.
We will hopefully have some sunshine tomorrow, although it is looking like some cloud could stick around a little bit more for your Friday, maybe some fog once again, too. But the big story, of course, is the wet weather. We have more of it today, a few thunderstorms in the mix as well. But interestingly enough, by the end of this weekend, we could be talking about wet flurries once again. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. And this morning we were talking about fog. There was plenty of that once again for the second morning in a row. These are scenes from Whitby, Ontario this morning. Fortunately, the fog has dissipated in most areas, but like I mentioned, we could see a return of this as we make our way into the day tomorrow. There's a lot of moisture in the air. The winds have been pretty light, although they are going to change direction as we make our way into the nighttime hours tonight. There is a rainfall warning in effect. It extends from Sarnia to London toward the Bayfield area. This is where about 40 millimeters of rain could fall through the day today, and we remain under a special weather statement here in the GTA. You can see that rain. For the most part, it is north of the GTA, once again impacting areas around Georgian Bay. Where we don't need more rain is the Bruce Peninsula toward Manitoulin Island and in through sections of Muskoka. Peterborough County now dealing with some heavy rain issues as well. And that rain continues just to the north of Windsor, impacting areas like Sarnia, as mentioned. So overall, though, we do see signs of a pattern change. We're going to start to dry out as we make our way through the weekend. There's some sun for Friday, but we're back into some showers as we head into the day on Saturday. And then Sunday, that's when the cool down comes. Here's a look at our forecast radar. So yeah, unsettled through the rest of the day today. Some clearing for tomorrow. And then heading into your Saturday, there's the chance of showers for both the late morning and into the afternoon. I do see signs of clearing as we make our way into Sunday, so that's some good news. And as far as additional rainfall is concerned at this point, we saw those special weather statements and rainfall warnings talking about what's expected total. From here, we can maybe expect another 5 to 10 millimeters in the GTA. It's another mild day today. That's been another big story this week. We're at 20 degrees right now. That is our forecast daytime high, so we'll see if we can climb even higher than that. Seasonal norm is 12. St. Catharines, you're the big winner so far today as far as warmth is concerned, and it's very humid out there again. 10 is the forecast overnight low for tonight, and then tomorrow 18 degrees is what we are forecasting at Pearson Airport, but you can expect it to feel a little cooler tomorrow if you're closer to the shoreline of Lake Ontario. So maybe closer to about 11 degrees for downtown Toronto compared to the airport. Here's your weekend forecast. 8 degrees by Sunday, overnight low -2. So that's where we could see a changeover to some wet flurries, but then it's sunshine for early next week. And after a chilly Monday, we are back to seasonal by Tuesday, Wednesday. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
All right, good to know. Thanks, Lindsay. The Maple Leafs wrapped up their season by facing off against the Ottawa Senators last night.
Here's Quillen with Nylander. Quillen's in. Loose in front. Scores. William Nylander's got his 30th.
William Nylander scored in the third period, but that would be all the offense the Leafs would get. They ended up losing 3-1 to Ottawa. The team ends the season with a record of 32-36, finishing 5th from the bottom of the standings. The Leafs are missing the playoffs for the first time since 2016-2017. The team spoke about the disappointing end to their season this morning.
I think our culture is good in here. I don't have a problem with the culture. I have a problem with how we performed on the ice, but I don't believe, I come in here daily and I see guys doing what they're supposed to be doing and working hard in practice, and the room was really good. The guys are good with each other. The culture's good around here. I mean, did they translate to the ice? No, it didn't.
This was a tough year. It was a frustrating year. We didn't meet the goals or the expectations that we set out at the start. And ultimately, that's on me. That's on us as players. We're the ones that, have to go out there and compete and play the game. And, we didn't do that well enough this year, consistently enough this year to put ourselves in a better spot. We love our fans and we appreciate our fans. I think we understand their frustration. I think we wear that alongside them.
I think at some points, we weren't able to maybe execute the system to, the best that we could. So I think maybe that was one of the issues.
There we have it. 44 years, 3,834 games, and it comes to an end for me. And I'm going to have to read this again as I did the other night because I know I can't do this off the cuff. But it has been and always will be my dream job as voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And longtime radio announcer Joe Bowen signed off for the last time following last night's game. Bowen thanked all the great players he was able to call over the years, as well as his colleagues. He served as voice of the Leafs since 1982.
Well, the Blue Jays will look for a series win when they wrap up their three-game set with the Milwaukee Brewers this afternoon.
And he swings at the 3-0, lifts a high fly towards the left field corner. Lockridge will make the catch. Varsho can tag, and he will come home. The sac fly by Sanchez gives the Blue Jays.
The Jays were only able to score a single run last night, eventually falling 2-1 to the Brewers. First pitch for today's game, is set for 1:40 this afternoon in Milwaukee.
Still to come, Canada's culture minister says Ottawa is considering introducing a social media ban for kids. We'll have those details when we come back. Canada's culture minister says Ottawa is very seriously considering introducing a social media ban for kids. Mark Miller says while the ban could be an important tool, it's not a solution to the larger problem of online harm. The government's move to consider age restrictions for social media and AI chatbots has received support from Conservative and NDP members of Parliament.
First, the ban really announces to parents, it's time to take action. As a society, this isn't okay anymore. It's been unregulated. We've seen the harms that it causes. And will there be children that go online? Absolutely. Just like, we don't want kids to smoke or drink, but there's going to be kids that do that. But what this really helps with is parents of young kids who the whole conversation at some point turns to, can I get a phone? Everybody in my class has a phone. Yeah. So hopefully this ban will help our parents that so desperately need that assistance.
Australia became the first country to pass a law enforcing age limits on social media last December. You may be surprised to learn lung cancer kills more Canadians than breast, prostate, and colon cancer combined.
But for those at highest risk, early screening is proving to be a game changer. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan explains.
Hi, Doug.
Nice to see you.
Jim Prevost had been a patient at Hamilton's St. Joseph's Healthcare for COPD. He was a long-time smoker. Then in 2024, he was among the first patients recommended for their new early lung cancer screening program, even though he had no symptoms.
I wasn't totally shocked, but nobody wants to hear they got lung cancer.
He delayed treatment by a couple of days to attend his daughter's wedding, but quickly went through surgery and chemo.
I'm okay, it's good. And thanks to this program, I'm here. Because if I would have not had the program, who knows what would have happened.
When you talk about people who historically show up with lung cancer, about 75% of them would show up with advanced disease. And now with lung cancer screening, about 75 to 80% of them show up with stage 1 disease, which is highly curable. We cure 80 to 85% of them with surgical resection. And so those people go on to live a normal life.
Dr. Christian Finley says early screening has made all the difference.
So the Ontario Lung Cancer Screening Program is a province-wide program, and it's available everywhere. And it's for people between 55 and 80 who've smoked daily for more than 20 years in their life. It doesn't have to be continuously, it can just be 20 years at any point.
But while some centres have offered early screening since 2024, others have been slower. Prevost's advice for those eligible?
If you want to be alive, get the early screening.
And by this summer, St. Joe's plans to expand the early lung screening program to nearby regions such as Niagara and Brantford. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Still to come, new data indicates home prices in the GTA could be trending upward. We'll take a closer look at the numbers when we return.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Amazon is introducing a fuel surcharge for Canadian sellers using its fulfillment program. Canadian companies using Amazon to pick, pack, and ship goods will now have to start paying a new surcharge because of rising fuel costs. The e-commerce giant says the 3.5% surcharge on fulfillment fees will take effect tomorrow.
New data from Royal LePage shows the price of homes in the GTA is still lower than last year, but there are signs that prices are trending upward. The aggregate price of a home in the region dropped by 4.7% year over year to just under $1.1 million in the first quarter of 2026. However, when compared to the last quarter of 2025, the price of homes was actually up 0.7%. The price of a detached home is down 4.5% year over year, while the median price of a condo is down 6.5%. Looking nationwide, the Canadian Real Estate Association is downgrading its forecast for home sales activity this year. The organization now expects just shy of 475,000 properties to exchange hands in 2026. That's a 1% increase from 2025, scaled down from an earlier forecast of more than 5% growth. The CREA says rising economic uncertainty has piled on to an already shaking start to the year. It also warns the spike in oil has led to higher inflation, raising the odds the Bank of Canada could hike interest rates, and that could mean higher mortgage rates.
Coming up, the power of peanut butter. We'll have more on a community effort in Waterloo focused on making sure no child goes hungry. A young man with Down syndrome is spreading hope through the power of peanut butter.
He's leading a community effort in Waterloo region to make sure kids don't go hungry. CTV's Spencer Turcotte has his story.
Caleb is a regular volunteer at Food for Kids Waterloo region.
Help others and friends and families.
He's always lending a helping hand.
Caleb has always been very helpful and very caring, so it's not out of character for him.
So when the organization, which supports nearly 1,500 food insecure children in Waterloo region, decided to launch their 5th annual peanut butter campaign, staff said they'd be nuts not to ask Caleb to be a part of it.
Caleb already volunteers here every week, and so he already has our mission in his mind.
It just so happens that Caleb's 20th birthday falls in between the April through June peanut butter campaign. His birthday wish? To crush last year's campaign numbers.
Last year, 4,160 jars came in.
Caleb knew he'd also need help putting a dent in that number, so his dad Carl stepped in.
I also contacted 4 local businesses: Brady's Meats, Maison Cuckoo Patisserie in Waterloo, Sweet Dreams Tea Shop in Waterloo, as well as Moose Winooski's in Kitchener to be our local drop-off sites.
Word spread fast, and things got off to a smooth start with jars piling up. Caleb at points looking like the peanut butter prince overlooking the collection from his jam-packed throne. The number of jars he set out to collect was
200.
But that goal is stuck in the past. He's collected
And over his 300.
That's a lot of peanut butter.
Jarring numbers like that are exactly what Food for Kids needs in order to meet their overall 5,000 jar goal. And if you're looking to help out, Caleb is still accepting donations from the drop-off sites.
You will allow it 100%. Sure.
A simple idea that's not only filling shelves, but bellies too. Spencer Turcott, CTV News, Kitchener.
Way to go, Caleb. Nice work.
I know, a lot of peanut butter, making me hungry for peanut butter, and it is lunchtime. But first, we got to get you caught up on the weather because there is a lot going on.
Yeah, it's an indoor lunch kind of day for today, even though we've been enjoying some real nice tastes of spring warmth this week. The rain has other things to say about that, although we are missing the worst of the heavy rain in the GTA at this time. We'll take one more look at the satellite and radar. Central portions of Ontario feeling the worst of this, and anyone along the shoreline of Lake Huron, it is a soggy day for you. Here's tomorrow's expected high. I'll remind you that 18 degrees is what we are forecasting at Pearson Airport. Anyone living in a lakeside community along that north shore of Lake Ontario, you can expect it to feel several degrees cooler than that, just thanks in part to the winds and some other factors. Here's a look at the next 3 days. Speaking of cool, Sunday, 8 degrees for a high, that's it, and overnight lows at times below freezing, so it's possible that we could see some wet flurries mixing in both Sunday morning and Monday morning. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, it's not over. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.